Breathing exercises have something very important to offer people with anxiety and panic disorder, most notably because 75% of people with anxiety and panic disorder are reported to have suboptimal breathing or dysfunctional breathing patterns. In terms of breathing, we want to look at breathing from a number of different dimensions. First and foremost, breathing should be only in and out through the nose, both during rest and physical exercise and during sleep. So even if you go for a walk, make sure you're breathing in and out through the nose and allow your nasal breathing to determine the intensity or the speed of your movement. In other words, only walk as fast as you can while you're able to maintain comfortable nose breathing. The breathe light aspect of breathing is helpful in terms of improving blood circulation, oxygen delivery to the brain, stimulating the vagus nerve, desensitizing the body's reaction to air hunger, and also in terms of adopting a slower breathing pattern in our everyday breathing. Because if we have a habit of breathing faster in upper chest and harder, the body is telling the brain that the body is not safe, and this in turn is feeding into anxiety and feelings of panic. And very often the person will tell us they just feel that they can't take a satisfying breath, they just feel that they cannot take a deep breath, or they feel air hunger. Well, we practice breathing light to improve breathing patterns to eliminate the feeling of air hunger that you might be experiencing in your normal everyday breathing. Because a low control pause implies that we have a strong chemosensitivity to the gas carbon dioxide, and what this means is that carbon dioxide is the primary driver to breathe, but some of us have a stronger reaction to the accumulation of carbon dioxide than others. So by practicing breathe light, it helps to improve our tolerance to the gas carbon dioxide. It helps to reduce the sensitivity of our body to the accumulation of carbon dioxide. And with a reduced sensitivity to carbon dioxide, our everyday breathing then is lighter and slower. And of course, that is a recipe for a calmer mind. If we have control over our breathing, and if our breathing is calm, the mind is more likely to be calm. The second dimension of breathing that we look at is breathing with good recruitment of the diaphragm. Now, of course, this is linked with nose breathing. I always say to my students that if you breathe through your mouth and look down at your chest, you'll see that mouth breathing causes engagement of the upper chest. Mouth breathing is faster breathing. Mouth and faster breathing is telling the brain that the body isn't safe, especially during rest and also during sleep. So as you breathe in, you should be feeling that your ribs are gently moving out. And as you breathe out, that your ribs are gently moving in. During rest, as you're breathing in and out through the nose, and as you breathe in, your ribs are gently moving out, and as you breathe out, your ribs are gently moving in, you don't need to hear your breathing while you're doing it. You can breathe low or deep with normal breathing volume. In other words, you don't have to be taking these full big breaths in order to engage the diaphragm. I remember I was going in to do an exam back in 1997, and it was one of my final exams at a university in Dublin. I was a little bit stressed going in, but I was stressed anyway because I had a habit of mouth breathing, faster breathing, upper chest breathing, and irregular breathing. So it doesn't take much of a situation to put us into a stress response. Before the exam was due to take part, I went for a walk for about 2 to 3 minutes. And during those 2 to 3 minutes, I took in these full big breaths because I believed that the more air, the fuller the breath that I brought into my body, the more it would help to oxygenate my brain. So I did that for just about 2 to 3 minutes in an effort to calm down. And I walked into the exam hall and I was disoriented. I was lightheaded. Now, it took me quite a few minutes to get my head together again, because what I had done unknowingly was taking full big breaths, which in turn got rid of too much carbon dioxide from the blood through the lungs, which in turn caused blood flow to the brain to reduce and also oxygen delivery to the brain to reduce. And that's why I was feeling disoriented and lightheaded. Needless to say, if your breathing is under par, regardless of what you do for a living, so whether you're a family person or, for example, you're working in first responders, in the police, corporate world, sports, any walk of life, if your breathing is under par, you're not going to be reaching your full potential, and your resilience towards stress is going to be reduced, because if we're almost always on the brink of stress, it doesn't take much of a situation to push us over. The third aspect of breathing that we look at is breathing slow. So you may have noticed in some of the videos that we were counting breathing. So breathing in maybe for 3 seconds and out for 3 seconds, or breathing in for 4 seconds and out for 4, or breathing in for 3 and out for 5 seconds, or in for 4 seconds or out for 6. So there were different cadences or frequencies in terms of breathing. And the objective there is to help to restore a rhythm, but also to help bring balance to the autonomic nervous system. Because when we have high stress and anxiety and panic disorder, depression, trauma, PTSD, we have dysregulation of the autonomic nervous system. And the one thing about breathing, they are tremendous tools when applied correctly to help dampen the stress response and activate the body's rest and digest response to help bring balance back. Another connection with anxiety is our sleep. If, for example, we are prone to insomnia, snoring, or obstructive sleep apnea, it is going to contribute to anxiety of the mind and also in terms of depression. It's quite common for people with obstructive sleep apnea to have depression, and it's quite common with people with depression to have obstructive sleep apnea. But how many people with depression, when they go to have their depression treated, that the healthcare provider is actually asking them about the quality of their sleep? Could they have stopping of the breath during sleep? Do they snore loudly? Are they waking up feeling energized, or are they waking up feeling exhausted? It's all too easy to assume that depression is causing exhaustion. But maybe we should be asking, could this person with depression, could they also have obstructive sleep apnea? That they are stopping breathing during sleep? That this in turn is causing sleep fragmentation? The brain is not cleaning itself so readily in terms of the glymphatic system. And because of the constant arousals from their slow wave sleep, they're waking up feeling irritable, which is normal, lethargic, and difficulty focusing. So could it be the poor sleep that's contributing to the depression? Only a sleep study can point to that. And the one thing is that if you have depression and if you have obstructive sleep apnea, you are not going to recover from your depression unless your obstructive sleep apnea is addressed. So it's really important to consider the connection between our sleep, our breathing, and the mind. Now, when we improve breathing patterns, we also improve sleep. So we apply the same techniques to improve our sleep, which in turn is improving focus of the mind and helping to bring a calmness to the mind, helping to bring a gap between thoughts. And one of the benefits of this in our everyday life is our ability then to hold our attention. We become much more resilient, when the mind is quieter. Situations happen, but we don't react the same way. We are more calm, we're more collected. And it's a much nicer and better place to be, because a solution happens when there's a gap between thoughts, as opposed to just flying off the handle and reacting with anger, for example. But aside from that, your concentration, your ability to hold your attention is influenced by your capacity to direct your attention. And I will always say that if we have dysfunctional breathing patterns, if our breathing is a little bit faster in upper chest, mouth breathing, irregular breathing, it will impact our ability to have focused attention. It does affect our concentration, our creativity, our intuition, our productivity. So there's many benefits aside from bringing a quietness to the mind, which is tremendous anyway, because as I was saying earlier on, what's the alternative? People, when they say to me, it's difficult focusing attention on breathing. Yes, it may not be easy, because very often our life is so busy. But it's very important for us to be able to bring attention to ourselves. All too often, we are happy to give much of our attention to the mobile phone, to the social media platforms, and yet we feel we don't have the time to give ourselves some attention. It's very important to give ourselves some attention. It's very important to bring your attention inwards, to take your attention out of the mind and onto the breath. And when you have your attention on your breathing, you're also taking your attention into the body. And when you're taking your attention onto your breath and onto the body, you're also bringing your attention into the present moment. In other words, you're not immersed in thought about the past, you're not thinking about the future, but your attention is moving simultaneously with time. So when at first you start focusing on your breathing, you might find that your mind is wandering off, and this is very normal. And you may even find that as you focus on your breath, that you're not necessarily focusing on your breathing, you could be thinking about your breathing, and that's normal. So be patient with yourself. Don't set a goal that you're here but you want to be over there, because then all of a sudden you're jumping into the future again. Set a goal that your objective is to practice having some attention on your breath. Because every second that you have your attention on your breathing is a second that your attention is out of the mind. And by gently doing it, you become accustomed to be able to direct your attention, your concentration improves, your attention span improves, life becomes softer, you become happier. And it's a tremendous tool, because there must be nothing better in life than to go through life and to be able to experience life with our senses, and not just to go through life stuck in our head. And many of us are going through life stuck in our head. And if we're stuck in our head, we are not experiencing life. Even a simple scenario of going for a walk in the countryside. How many of us walk in the countryside? You might be walking through a field, along a country lane. There's birds singing. The sun is on your back. You're hearing the leaves. You're hearing all of the sounds of nature. You may not be seeing the nature. You may not be experiencing the warmth of the sun, because your attention isn't in the present moment. Your attention could be stuck in your head. And that's just one example. That on that simple walk through the countryside, that you've missed all of what nature has to offer. Even though we have been there in body, we have not been there in terms of awareness. And awareness is, where are you going to direct your attention? So start off, simple things when you're brushing your teeth. When you're doing any mundane activities, bring your attention onto your breathing. If there's a difficult situation throughout the day, bring your attention onto the breath and slow down the exhalation. Bring breathing exercises into your way of life, because I can absolutely assure you this, no matter what time you spend practicing on your breathing, you will get much more back in return.